It was supposed to be the weekend getaway of a lifetime in the heart of the Lone Star State.
They came to Houston to party and enjoy the nightlife.
He was doing what guys usually do, get girls, have a good time.
But the party's over when a shooting starts.
There were gunshots ringing throughout the neighborhood.
Harris County 911.
I don't know where I'm at, but they shooting. I'm scared.
He's shot multiple times, in the chest, in the arm, just everywhere.
This was a very dire situation.
Were these tourists simply victims of bad luck? Or were there more sinister factors at play?
What? I remember just thinking to myself, like, this can't be happening. How? Why?
It just didn't make sense. This person isn't even from the city.
As detectives work to unravel this mystery, they will learn trust is a luxury few can afford.
This was a very toxic situation.
Come on.
I think it's a passion-fueled, jealousy-fueled crime.
We got anybody dead now from a certain type of way.
I have no problem. I didn't know any of these people had.
Sometimes it takes a long time to get to the truth, but that's what we did here.
This was a cold, calculated murder.
June 28th, 2021. It's not yet daylight in Houston, Texas, a city that attracts millions of tourists every year to enjoy its sports, restaurants, and world-class nightclubs.
Houston is a large city, and we have a very vibrant nightlife. It is an attraction, especially down in the southwest part of Houston.
If you come to Houston, you're going to be welcomed. You're going to enjoy a lot of great food, a great time, great party atmosphere.
But in the early hours of this Monday morning, the city is suddenly thrown into chaos.
Just around 3 a.m., there was an influx of 911 calls.
Harris County 911.
We think we might have just heard gunshots.
Oh my God, somebody shooting me.
They're still shooting right now?
I'm scared. I'm in the back of my car. For sure.
By the sound of the reports, at least one person has already been injured.
Please, someone from. Hurry up, please.
Police race to the scene of the crime, a home in the affluent Houston neighborhood of Old Oaks.
It's a quiet neighborhood. This is unusual to have this type of disturbance.
When officers arrived, they were fully prepared to confront an armed shooter.
But instead, they only find the aftermath of the violent attack.
They see this young man in dire need. He's shot multiple times, in the chest, in the arm, just everywhere.
He's been pummeled with shots. Whomever shot him meant to do intentional and extensive damage, because they did.
It's really bad, yet he's still breathing.
There were some witnesses gathered around, and they were very distraught.
The young man's friends identify him as 28-year-old Gregory Moore.
Gregory Moore was losing blood fast.
They wanted to get him to the nearest hospital so that he could get to the emergency room.
Time was of the essence if they were going to save this man's life.
New York native Gregory Moore's outgoing personality and warm-hearted demeanor meant he had no trouble making friends.
He was a great, great friend. You could never just be mad at him, even when you wanted to be. You know, he just made you laugh. He was funny. He was a goofball.
He was just one of those guys who seemed like he could get along with anyone. Always the life of the party.
But Gregory wasn't just the life of the party. He was also a dedicated father.
We had a family young. He was an amazing dad. He was not the disciplinary. He was the fun parent. He was the kind of parent that would be like, it's raining out, don't go to work today, let's stay home and watch movies. Or let's put a bunch of blankets on the floor and let the kids just do what they want.
However, As much as Greg loved his children, the pressures of parenthood put a strain on his relationship with their mother, Tatiana Anderson.
We were together for 10 years, so time took its course on our relationship, and we kind of had to separate to figure ourselves out.
Greg started to date other people and had a child with another woman in 2018.
By the summer of 2021, Greg was focused on being the best parent he could be and building his career.
He used to work the night shift. He was a community technician, so he was on the front line with the population that is undeserved the most. He had gotten to a place where he didn't know if that was something he wanted to continue to pursue. So he was thinking of going to trade school and just trying to build from that. He was talking about opening a business.
And in June of that year, Gregory decided to take a well-deserved break from the stresses of life by planning a trip with his closest friends.
Gregory and his friends came down to Houston to have a good time, have a boys' weekend, and just enjoy themselves.
They rent a high-end rental in Houston, Texas, and prepare for a few days of R&R and social get-down.
But instead of enjoying a weekend savoring the sights and sounds of a new city, the group's dream vacation has just become a waking nightmare.
Police responded to a string of 911 calls and found Gregory Moore unresponsive and losing blood fast.
He has multiple gunshots, including his neck, his back, his arms, his chest.
His carotid artery was severed. His lung was punctured. Just horrible injuries.
He's clinging to life and barely has a pulse.
Paramedics rush Gregory to the nearest hospital, hoping for a miracle.
His life essentially at this moment is hanging in the balance.
In the summer of 2021, Brooklyn resident Gregory Moore was enjoying a weekend in Houston with his closest friends.
He's young, black, handsome, trying to be successful, trying to make it.
When Gregory Moore and his friends rented that Airbnb in the suburbs of Houston, they thought that they were going to have a fun, ritzy, exciting weekend.
But just 2 days into their trip, the group's vacation has just turned into a catastrophe.
One of his friends had called me, and he was hysterical. And he was like, Greg has been shot. That's it. Nothing else. I'm hundreds of miles away. I didn't know what to do.
En route to the hospital, first responders discover he's been shot at least 10 times.
For the whole night, I sat on the couch. And I just waited. And me and his mom were texting, and she was like, oh, he was in ICU and he was gonna live.
Meanwhile, as the sun comes up over Houston, homicide detectives arrive on the scene of the shooting to begin their investigation.
When I arrived at the scene, multiple patrol units were already there. They had detained numerous individuals that had been in the home. As I walked up, I observed there be a large amount of blood on the front porch.
They also saw shell casings on the ground from a 9mm. The front of the house was littered with bullets.
It's so shocking because it shows the rage that the gunman had.
It seems that the shooter ambushed the victim, rolled up, shot him, and then left.
Near the front door, investigators locate Gregory's cell phone, but that's not the only phone they find at the scene.
They find another cell phone and a tablet that looks like it's been run over.
They were in the street in front of the house.
It looks like this is some sort of physical evidence from the shooter.
Unfortunately, the investigators aren't able to access the devices.
These 2 additional devices are locked. And not only that, the tablet has been damaged.
Extracting all the digital contents of the phones, that takes months.
The detectives don't have that kind of time to waste.
If you have an armed shooter on the loose, you need answers now.
Why would someone want to hurt Gregory?
These people had just traveled here. They were tourists.
Gregory Moore is not from Houston, Texas. He's from New York. And so this doesn't make any sense.
That's when detectives are approached by a neighbor.
Hey, detectives. I have something I think you'll want to see.
The neighbor had a doorbell camera that picked up some useful footage.
He's able to share the video with them.
It's not the greatest quality of video, but detectives can see the shooter's vehicle arrive around 3 a.m., and it's a dark-colored sedan.
Seconds later, a barrage of gunshots ring out.
I also took a video when the gunshot stopped.
And he recorded the end of this tragic evening.
On the phone video, you can see someone running away from the crime scene.
They jumped into the vehicle and pulled off. However, the cell phone video is too dark to identify exactly who this person is.
They aren't able to make out the vehicle's license plate from the video either.
As compelling as this evidence is, it doesn't do much to help the investigators narrow down their list of suspects.
We had no idea who the person was. Right now, we have to identify this guy.
However, before they can continue their investigation, Detective Crane receives a call from the hospital where Gregory is being treated.
Yes, this is Detective Crane.
They get a call that Gregory Moore has succumbed to his extensive injuries.
Gregory Moore was dead.
Houston detectives investigating the shooting of 28-year-old tourist Gregory Moore have just learned that he succumbed to his injuries.
He was pronounced deceased there at the hospital. It's a tragedy. It's the worst part of my job.
When the news spreads to Gregory's loved ones back in Brooklyn, they're devastated and confused.
And I remember just thinking to myself, like, this can't be happening. Not Greg. How? Why? I think in that moment, the air just left my body. My daughter had just graduated pre-K. And my son was going to kindergarten the following September. And I remember thinking to myself, how was I going to explain to them that he wasn't coming back?
Gregory had flown down to Houston with 3 friends, Raymond Gibbs, Clayton Barnes, and Troy Walsh. And the investigators' next move was to speak to them to see what they knew.
Gregory's friends are distraught when the detectives break the news to them.
Well, here's the deal. Gregory didn't make it, okay? So, we're gonna do what we can to figure out who and why, but it's gonna require some help from y'all, okay?
Gregory's friends are distraught. This was supposed to be a fun weekend in Houston.
They came all this way just to have a good time.
The detectives asked Greg's friends if they have any idea who the shooter was.
Is there anything you can think of that would help us in identifying?
The friends explain they'd only been in Houston for a couple of days.
We got out on Saturday around 3 o'clock.
They went out Saturday night to have a good time.
Did y'all have any issues with anyone Saturday night?
No, we had no issues with anyone.
In fact, Gregory's friends say he'd hit it off with someone at the bar that night.
we learned that the victim had met a female at a club the previous night, on Saturday night, the same night they arrived.
My friend met these girls, and I guess we were talking to them, and then I had took one of the girls' number, he took one of the girls' number.
The woman Greg exchanged numbers with was named Stacy, and her friend Michelle exchanged numbers with Clayton.
They were doing what guys usually do: talk to girls, get girls, have a good time for the weekend.
The following night, Greg invited Stacy over to the rental house to keep the party going.
They were all just partying and having a good time. There was some more flirting happening between Greg and Stacy.
And eventually, Stacy suggested that they go pick up Michelle.
My friend wanted to come pretty much to the place, so we're like, okay. Greg asked me if I wanted to drive, and they're gonna come with me. I'm like, cool.
And so they left the Airbnb, traveling back down into Southwest Houston.
But along the way, their plans changed when Michelle decided to stay in for the night.
Her friend decided she wasn't coming anymore. Okay. We're like, all right, cool, whatever.
And that ultimately led to them turning around and driving back up to where the Airbnb was located.
By the time they made it back, Clayton was feeling hungry, so he decided he was going to go pick up something to eat.
Have a good night. We get back here, and I'm like, y'all not gonna lie, I'm starving. They're like, all right, cool, we're gonna go inside and lay down. Okay. I'm like, that's cool. So I literally drive in the front to drop them off, and they walking.
Clayton says as Greg and Stacy approached the front door of the Airbnb, all hell broke loose.
That's when they are ambushed.
I see a guy just running from the side of the grass, and I see a little flashing light, and then all I heard was shots going off.
Clayton took cover and dialed 911.
Please, I'm welcome. Hurry up, please.
Everyone knows what happened to Gregory, but where was Stacy?
The kids in the house did not know where the girl had gone. That caused us concern. We don't know who this girl is or what has happened to her.
There is not a last name, unfortunately.
Did she run away? Is she with the perpetrator?
So detectives start exploring all avenues to track Stacy down.
Stacy's friend Michelle was at the club with her the night she met Greg and his friends. Michelle and Clayton had exchanged numbers.
Clayton gives the police Michelle's number.
She agreed to come in and speak with them about this.
Thank you for coming in. You're welcome. We obviously want to talk to you about an incident that happened this morning early. Mm-hmm. And there's no sense in being all around the bush. Mm-hmm. Tell me what happened.
Michelle starts by confirming that she and her friend, Stacy Adams, went bar hopping on the night of June 27th.
We met some guys from New York. Everybody was having fun.
They find themselves on Saturday night at a club, having a good time. They think, oh, good, we got some people to hang out with.
The next day, which is Sunday, they were texting us like, do we want to come to the hospital?
Stacy was quick to accept the offer, but Michelle says she was more reluctant.
I already was like, no, because I don't know them like that. And I just met them. But she was texting me like, come over here.
At some point, Stacy told Michelle that she and the boys were on their way to pick her up.
I wouldn't answer my phone. I was trying to play like I'm asleep because I didn't want to go.
They ended up continuing the night without her.
But a little while later, Michelle says she heard from Stacy again.
Girl, I told you I'm not coming.
She called her at about 2:45 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, panicking.
She was like, y'all can't tell on me, And we like, what you talking about? What's wrong?
That's when Stacy dropped a bombshell.
She was telling her, y'all have to alibi me out.
She was like, my dude killed some boys in the book.
What?
Houston police investigating the murder of Gregory Moore have been looking for a young woman named Stacey Adams, who was with Greg during the shooting.
Initially, police were concerned that Stacey could be another victim of the crime, but now they have to consider the possibility she was in on it.
Now, in speaking with Stacey's friend, Michelle, that possibility seems more and more likely.
Michelle admitted her friend Stacey wasn't as single as she presented herself to be.
She indicated she received a very frantic phone call from Stacey, and she had let her know that her boyfriend had shot and killed one of the guys they had met clubbing.
She was like, my dude killed her boyfriend.
What? I know, I'm freaking out.
According to Michelle, Stacey went on to explain that her boyfriend James had been spying on her that day.
Stacey's boyfriend found out she was messaging with Gregory. He was not happy about that.
His name's James. I don't know his last name. I wish I knew it. He got a toy inside him, but he screenshot messages to her and like, you.
That's also how James found out where Stacey was.
The Instagram app allows you to share your location, so he can literally log into it and see on her locations where she is.
The boyfriend was able to track Stacey to where Gregory and his friends were staying by her social media. And when they get to the house, he jumps out, rolls up on the two of them.
She was like that. Her boyfriend took with the dude, and he shot him at least like 5 times.
Come with me if you know what's good for you.
After the shots stopped, Stacey did leave the scene with her boyfriend.
Even though Michelle doesn't know James's full name, she's able to provide the investigators with other useful information.
She had a very good idea of where he lived, and through that information, we were able to determine what cars are registered at that address, which came back to matching the car that they fled the scene in.
DMV records show that the vehicle in question is registered to a 21-year-old pizza delivery driver named James Ray Lane.
They pull his driver's license photo and present it to Michelle.
You recognize who this person is?
That's James.
That's James.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, detectives have to wonder if the mysterious second cell phone they found at the crime scene belongs to James Lane.
In an effort to try to put all these pieces together, the detectives ring the phone number that they have for James Ray Lane. And the phone that they found at the house at the murder scene begins to ring.
Bingo.
With that, we were clearly able to establish that he was in fact there, and we got to a point where we were comfortable in that James Lane was in fact our suspect. And after we had a warrant for his arrest, then our tactical operations team then began the surveillance.
They start by staking out James's home.
Police set up surveillance. However, after several days, James does not show up and they are not able to locate Stacey either.
Next, the investigators go after their suspect's vehicle.
They learn that his vehicle is leased from a local car lot.
And when detectives contact the car lot, they're met with a shocking piece of information.
The dealership said he's here now. He's here now.
Houston police immediately move in to make the arrest.
Stacey was there with him too.
James was arrested. Stacey was just traveling with him, and she agreed to come to our office and talk to us about what happened.
At police headquarters, the investigators placed James and Stacey into separate interview rooms for questioning.
They decide that Stacey is the first person that they want to talk to.
We might as well jump on off into here. Okay? And I'm going to tell you a little bit of what I do. The situation you're involved in, the truth is your best friend. Okay? I want you to think about that as we talk about what happened last weekend. Is that a fair approach?
Yeah.
As Stacy begins to tell her story, it lines up with what the detectives have already heard from other witnesses.
Saturday, I went out to this little bar. You got drunk, and I met some guys.
She and Michelle met the fellas from New York that night at a club.
So we got to exchange numbers.
Yeah.
Stacy also confirms that she'd hung out with Gregory and his friends at their Airbnb the following night.
She admitted to, in fact, being there. She admitted to how she came to know the victim and his friends. But when we got to the real meat and potatoes of the shooting, she had a little different story about it.
This is what it's real important. What happens? Okay?
She shared with us that she had no idea who the person was. He was masked up.
You do that on the name.
Yeah? Okay. What did he say?
Nothing.
Stacy also denies leaving the scene of the crime with the shooter after he ceased fire.
What happened after the shooting?
I was in shock. And we went our separate ways.
What do you mean went your separate ways?
I went to move in the house.
Yeah? Okay. And how did you leave?
We walked. My brain felt like in that area.
So she just walked away and went to her grandmother's house, who lived nearby, and then called people to come get her.
The detectives aren't buying it.
If you walk to your grandmother's house, give me your grandmother's name, her phone number, maybe even her address. Let's go talk to her, back up your alibi. But she couldn't.
Detectives also have the cell phone footage from the neighbor, which they believe shows Stacy getting in James's car and leaving with him.
There's also the fact that she told Michelle a very different story than what she's telling detectives now. Her current version of events just doesn't check out.
I just straight confronted her with the fact that that's not true. That part of it is completely fabricated, and we're going to have to do better.
I think so, yeah.
Nope. Sometimes it takes a long time to get to the truth, but that's what we did here.
Police in Houston, Texas have zeroed in on 21-year-old James Ray Lane as their main suspect in the shooting death of Gregory Moore.
He was jealous. He was upset that his girlfriend, Stacy, might have been cheating on him, and he took it out on someone who didn't even know that she had a boyfriend.
But according to Stacy, James is innocent.
Stacy told the investigators that a man with a black mask shot Gregory Moore.
She said that she didn't know who the gunman was.
The investigators believe she's lying.
I share with her that if I don't believe it, a jury's not ever going to believe it either.
The truth is going to be very important for you right now. I'm sitting here today. I mean, it could either make you a witness, to make you part of the crime, and to make you a suspect. So this is your opportunity to tell us the truth.
I always tell them, we understand sometimes things happen that are out of your control, but we can't make it worse by lying about it.
Finally, Stacy starts to break down.
I think so, yeah.
Nope.
I think so, yeah.
Not at this point.
Sometimes it takes a long time to get to the truth in what we call the little room, but we generally get there. And that's what we did here.
Stacy finally admits on the night she went home with Gregory, her boyfriend James was blowing up her phone.
Everything okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
a lot of them I'm taking screenshots of my DMs and stuff. I was really ignoring him because I was having fun at that point. I didn't want to argue with me. Okay. And he just kept calling and kept it.
She's getting text messages from James. He's wondering, where are you? Who are you with?
James had gotten into a tablet device that Stacy owned, and that was how he was able to access all her social media, the same tablet police found at the scene of the crime.
But Stacy insists she had no idea James was tracking her location.
I don't know. I believe probably.
Stacy says when James ambushed them outside the Airbnb, she was just as shocked as Gregory.
James was clearly upset and jealous.
He beat on a defenseless man. Greg didn't have a knife. He didn't even have a pot to hit him with. He had nothing.
Why did you not call for the help?
I was scared. I was still in shock. I never seen nothing like this.
Come with me if you know what's good for you.
Stacy was in such shock that she actually did leave with James after the shooting.
I was going to stay with him until the police got there. But I was scared.
She says that James then dropped her off in an area of Southwest Houston called Meyerland.
Okay, so you rode into Meyerland and just got out of the car on the street in Meyerland?
Yes, could I have people?
She was unsure as to where James went or where the murder weapon was.
But they get together a few days later and decide to lay low at her cousin's house in Southwest Houston.
After doing that for a few more days, they make their way to the car dealership, hoping that they can get a new car and drive out of town. And it is at a car dealership that they get busted.
I have no problem. I did not end a piece of problem.
But is she telling the truth?
Now the detectives make their way across the hall to talk to James to try to see if their stories will line up.
Houston detectives investigating the murder of Brooklyn native Gregory Moore have just taken a statement from 18-year-old Stacy Adams.
Stacy admitted to her boyfriend, James, being the gunman, but insisted she had no idea of what was going to go down.
Now, detectives are eager to hear James's side of the story.
There was a shooting that occurred, and there was a boy got killed. And I received information, a lot of information, that tells me you may have something to do with that. I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell us what happened.
Much to their surprise, he admits that he was on the scene.
What made you go that night to the house when the shooting happened? You better go home. That was my thing.
But James says after he showed up and found Stacy, the situation quickly got out of hand.
According to James, when he arrived, he told Stacy, "Let's go."
Come on.
I told her, let's go.
What you think you're doing? Taking my girl back home. Get your hands off me.
What do you mean you came at me?
And he indicates Gregory attacked him. He said he did what he needed to do in order to defend himself.
That's why he shot Gregory.
Unfortunately for James, The detectives know he's not being truthful.
James told the police, basically, he felt threatened by Gregory Moore. He had the 9mm. He shot Gregory Moore 10 times, killed a man. And so it's astounding that he would try to shift the blame.
Well, James, let me stop you. Don't start going down a path of lying, all right?
I just lay out to him, these are the facts. This is what we know, and this is your opportunity to tell us what happened.
You're going to have to tell us what happened without some crazy story that doesn't make sense and it's not consistent with the evidence, okay?
What do you want me to say?
I want you to tell me the truth.
I'll tell you the truth.
After a little bit of time, he comes around to the most self-serving truth he can get to, and he asked me and my partner, what would you do if you saw someone handling your woman that way?
We don't have anybody dead now from the
I asked him to elaborate on that, and he wouldn't. But he put himself there, and then he put himself trying to justify the murder. And that was sufficient enough for us.
At the end of the interview, the investigators charged James with the murder of Gregory Moore.
I would like to have had a complete, total confession as to why he did it, but that's very hard for a lot of people to do.
Investigators conclude that James's girlfriend, Stacey Adams, was an innocent bystander in the crime.
Detectives do believe that Stacey is telling the truth about not knowing what James was going to do that night.
They ended up not charging her with any crime.
However, as prosecutors prepare for trial, they aren't planning to go easy on James.
Making the decision to drive 40 minutes all the way up to North Harris County and wait, lay in waiting for them to return. It's a passion-fueled, jealousy-fueled, immaturity-fueled crime.
This was not an act of self-defense. This was a cold, calculated murder.
James is now facing life in prison. Having an acquittal just seems highly unlikely.
So he decides to come to the table with the prosecutors to try to strike a deal to save some part of his life.
James finally confesses to investigators' version of events and admits to gunning down Gregory Moore in cold blood.
In exchange for a full confession, they do offer James a deal of 22 years, and he does accept this plea deal.
He's got to serve at least half of that before he can even be considered for parole.
For Gregory Moore's loved ones, the resolution in this case isn't enough.
James got 22 years. 22. In 22 years, James will still be old enough to have a family, to have children, to have a life.
This sentence is quite light, but James is 21 years old and has never so much as gotten a traffic ticket.
It's really heartbreaking because prosecutors even said after the sentencing, he never showed remorse to the victim's family. He never showed that he felt bad for the situation.
Gregory Moore should be alive today, enjoying his kids growing up. James Lane should be in the free world today, doing what kids his age should be doing. And neither one of those things are going to happen now.
Greg didn't have cancer. He wasn't in a car accident. He wasn't hit by a bus. He was shot. And that's a hard pill for me to swallow.
No one.
I couldn't breathe. Felt like my heart just jumped out of my chest. You never think that would happen in your home so soon, so fast, being that your relative, your little brother who you grew up with, knowing that you never see him again.
Mr. Martin had 9 entrance wounds to his body. There were 2 to the head and neck area, there were 4 in the midsection, and there were 3 in the lower extremities.
When you shoot someone that many times, this isn't a robbery gone bad. He was targeted.
The sad part is, even though the law acquitted him, in the streets, they don't want to hear any of that.
He would die over there, man. If they had beef, it was his beef.
I said, aren't you scared? And he just said, I'm not scared of nothing.
He kind of put two and two together. That was some type of payback.
May 31st, 2018. Just before dawn, police in Waterloo, Iowa receive a call about an injured man near the 1200 block of Washington Street.
So the initial call came in that there was a black male in a pool of blood in the alley. One of the neighbors in the alley had called it in.
Responding officers quickly determined that the victim has already succumbed to his injuries. They search for evidence to explain his death.
Of particular interest here was the number of bullets, of shell casings. There were, I believe, 5 shell casings found on scene, 3 fired bullets.
They couldn't find any wallet, ID, so initially they had no idea who this black male in the alley that had been killed was. They did notice some tattoos on his arms, and one of our officers was good enough to run through our database the tattoos that he saw, and that tattoo ultimately identified him as Shavonda Martin.
Shavonda Chavez Martin was born on January 5, 1996 in Greenwood, Mississippi, to parents Diane Martin and little John Archer Chavez. Shavonda immediately won over his older half-brother, DeAndre.
I remember when he came home in his car seat. He was a smiling baby. He was quiet, like always sitting in his car seat smiling. He was a smiling person. I'm the oldest, and then second, the middle child is Cardarius, and the youngest was Shavonda.
DeAndre, he always been like the smart one, the focused one. Then you got me. I always was the class clown. Then you got Shavonda. He had his own type of personality. Funny, caring, had the biggest heart.
A lot of times it was just us, kind of us against the world, you know. My mom raised us alone. Dad wasn't there. We lived with family members, being around cousins.
We grew up since we was kids. Like, when we stayed together at my mom's house, it used to be everybody. When we lived in Mississippi, it used to be everybody.
It was fun, rough moments, tough moments, sad moments. But I think that's what made us strong at the end of the day.
In the early 2000s, the extended family decided to move from Mississippi to Waterloo, Iowa.
My parents decided that they wanted something better in Mississippi. There's no money down there. It's like my dad got tired of working for bare minimal and he wanted more, so we moved up here.
The move from a predominantly black city with only 15,000 residents to a predominantly white city of 68,000 came with some culture shock. Waterloo didn't offer everything the family had hoped for.
Waterloo is on the list for the worst cities for Black Americans based on household income, based on home ownership versus renting, based on opportunities, whether it be in jobs or specifically related to pay. And I'm telling you, if you are familiar with this area and you drive through the neighborhoods of Waterloo, you can feel that.
Gunplay was, in our neighborhood, is very normal. Hearing shots all the time, police sirens and things like that.
We wasn't like allowed to like go around the block and because my mom's concerned about safety and stuff, so really tough on us.
Thankfully, the Waterloo community had some strong youth outreach programs.
I had an opportunity to get involved with a soccer program that was beginning in one of the lowest economic schools, elementary schools in Waterloo. And at that, I met Cardarius, and I became his big brother with Big Brothers Big Sisters. Shavonda ended up being on our soccer team the next year.
For the two younger brothers, sports provided an escape and hope for the future.
When I started picking up basketball, after I started picking up basketball, he was actually good. Me and Shavonda's conversation was, hey, bro, what you doing? You need to sit there and think about what you're doing. You're really good at basketball, man. take your talent seriously. Go to school. Like, we need to do something for Mom, get her out of here. We need to continue with the sports, play basketball, whatever we can do to get us out of Iowa.
In high school, Cardarius defined himself as an athlete, but Shavondes gravitated toward other interests.
Shavondes, who was very athletic, but also just didn't have that drive. So a lot of times he would be at a game and you just want more from him. He just didn't want to try. And it was kind of that same thing with school. It was really hard to get him motivated. He just didn't have that motivation that the other two boys had. Maybe he saw that Dre was already the man of the house and Cardarius was kind of the athlete, and he said, what is it for me?
As a teenager, Shavondes started making friends on the streets and getting into trouble for the first time.
I think maybe hearing the gunshots in the neighborhood we lived in, sometimes you can just meet a friend or something, and then the adrenaline you're thinking, and it becomes that. So I think he was just struggling with wanting to be cool and be tough.
Shavondes was pretty smart. I mean, he wasn't stupid. He wasn't the person that just did whatever someone told him to. He was his own person.
He was definitely a little, hard-headed and whatever. When he jumped off the porch, he jumped. It wasn't no coming back from it.
In June 2016, Shavondes was arrested for possession of marijuana with intent to deliver.
Shavondes was probably already on the police radar when he got caught with narcotics and a scale and all of that, and then turned back around a month later, and then now is charged with being in the drive-by shooting.
I think it leads from the teenage years, from like fighting and having beef, and then it kind of like level up to go from fighting with hands to with guns.
Shavondes' attempts to fit in on the streets have dire consequences. When someone loses their life, and Shavondes is held responsible.
There were a couple of people shot, one of them being Octavius Brown, who ended up dying.
Shavondes got arrested for murder. I don't know to this day if he was one with a gun that struck the guy.
Shavondes spent 1.5 years in police custody. In early 2018, he went on trial for murder. A jury found him not guilty.
Ultimately, they didn't feel we had enough evidence to put a gun in Shavondes Martin's hands.
I know when he got out, the first thing he did, he actually said he was done with the streets. He just wanted to work and stay out of trouble.
He was back out. He was working at Tyson Chicken, and he was trying to pretty much reboot and change his life to try to get a low profile and just kind of live life on a better way and a straight and narrow path.
Instead of being in the mode he was before he went in, kind of being on guard when he got out, he's walking around like a changed man. And I think it might have just backfired, letting your guard down,
In the early morning hours on May 31st, 2018, 4 months after he was acquitted of murder and had turned his life around, Shavondes Martin has been murdered.
When I heard the name, it kind of hit close because I had arrested Shavondes Martin for murder roughly 2 years before this incident. During that previous investigation, we got to know each other quite well. My first thought when I learned it was Shavondes in the alley was, this isn't going to be easy. Unfortunately, he had made a lot of people angry, and we knew there was a lot of people that were after him. So it kind of created a wide pool of who might have done this. Made it a little more difficult that I learned his pockets have been gone through and possibly a phone taken. So initially we thought, was this possibly a robbery? So that opens up a whole bigger pool of potential people.
Investigators canvassed the neighborhood, searching for anyone who saw or heard the shooting.
A number of the witnesses described what they believed earlier in the morning, around 3:30 in the morning. They believed that there had been a party going on, and they thought they heard fireworks.
Others recognized the sounds as gunshots, but did not call police.
They don't want to call it in and be part of the crime because then their name gets out that they called it in. So we have a lot of people that won't call it in so they don't have to talk to the police.
Moving forward, homicide investigators have one thing to focus on. Who killed Shavondes Martin?
Leaving the scene, we didn't have a lot to work with initially. In terms of the actual players, at that moment, we did not know.
In Waterloo, Iowa, police are investigating the shooting of 22-year-old Shavondes Martin. The victim and his family are well known in the community.
It was decided right away, let's go talk to Mom. We went to Diane's house, and I ultimately made the declaration that Shavondes had been murdered. She was obviously distraught and was having a tough time with answering questions, so she wanted her son DeAndre there.
I remember this like it was yesterday. I was in the car. It was me, my fiance, and my daughter. I get a call, and my mom said the police came to our door saying they think Shavondes is dead. I think somebody killed him. And then, honestly, I threw my phone. I hung it up, and I said it killed my brother.
Shavondes' older brother, Cardarius, is away at college when he receives the news via text message from a family friend.
So I called my brother, DeAndre. He answered and told me it was true. And my emotions, felt like I couldn't breathe, felt like my heart just jumped out of my chest. You never think that would happen in your home so soon, so fast, being that your relative, your little brother who you grew up with, knowing that you never see him again.
I went and picked my mom up, and we went to where he was killed at. We got to see him just laying there lifeless, like an animal that's been ran over by a car. You can imagine how that can make me feel.
While the family and investigators are still at the scene, they receive information from a bystander who says she knew Shavondes.
We did talk to an ex-girlfriend right away, and the reason we did is because she arrived on the crime scene not knowing it was Shavondes, but eventually finding out, and made comments to an officer that she had just been with him that morning. We learned that at approximately 12:30, Shavondes did come by her house, and they talked for about an hour. After that, he called a friend, got picked up, and that was the last time she saw him. She had no real description of what kind of vehicle it was, just that it was a four-door vehicle, and Shavondes had gotten out of the back driver's seat. She didn't know who was driving and who else was in the vehicle. So now we had a timeline of that 1:30 a.m. where he left his ex-girlfriend's house to the 3:30 where the incident happened. So now we've narrowed that time of 2 hours that we need to figure out what happened in that time.
Investigators approach local businesses to see if anyone has surveillance footage of the area where Shavondes was found.
We did find some cameras, but a lot of times what I run across is a lot of people use dummy cameras. It's just a scare tactic. They're not actually hooked up for recording. So we didn't have anything of the immediate area that Shavondes was located at.
Later, the autopsy shows that more shots were fired than police had previously assumed.
Mr. Martin had 9 entrance wounds to his body. There were 2 to the head and neck area. There were 4 in the midsection, and there were 3 in the lower extremities.
There were 9mm bullets used, as well as .357 or .38 Special. .38 Special and .357 are a common revolver caliber, so we felt we were dealing with a revolver that wouldn't have left shell casings. So we believe there's 2 shooters because of the 2 guns.
The brutality of the murder also prompts investigators to theorize about motive.
This is a very personal incident. When you shoot someone that many times, this isn't a robbery gone bad. We're leaning more towards this is personal. He was targeted.
Police consider the recent acquittal of Shavondes Martin on murder charges as a potential motive for his murder.
Obviously, Octavius Brown's friends and family were not happy that he was acquitted on the shooting. His group had also created a lot of enemies, so there were always groups after, not necessarily him, but the people he hung out with.
And you kind of put two and two together. Everybody had common sense. That was some type of payback.
Investigating the murder of 22-year-old Shavondes Martin, police in Waterloo, Iowa, examined allegations that Shavondes was involved in another murder on July 17, 2016.
We had a drive-by shooting on Logan Avenue in Waterloo. We had a driver that was in his 30s, and then we had 3 other juveniles in the car doing the shootings. Through our investigation, we learned that multiple people fired shots at the house, eventually striking 2 and killing a 3rd.
A witness identified Shavondes as one of the 3 shooters. The murder victim was 21-year-old Octavius Brown.
Everything we learned, Octavius Brown was kind of just a wrong place, wrong time, innocent victim in this.
Octavius wasn't even part of anything to do with the streets. He was a guy that was just happened to be around. He had nothing to do with it. Nobody ever known him to do anything in the streets, guys. He just was a person that knew street guys.
Friends and family members of Shavondes Martin believe Shavondes was murdered because of his association with the death of Octavius Brown and his loyalty to the friends allegedly involved in that drive-by shooting.
We learned that Shavondes was very loyal to his friends, would do anything for them.
He loved his friend. He would die over them, man. It's nothing to really go. You could say to him about them. If they had beef, it was his beef. He was the one that was gonna step in for them.
And friends staying loyal and not snitching and all of these different codes that we have as young black men is the reason why Shavondes went down the hole that he went down.
Shavondes was acquitted of murder charges on February 9, 2018. But the streets may not let go so easily.
The sad part is, even though the law acquitted him, in the streets, they don't want to hear any of that. If you're an alleged shooter of someone's family, we all know it's going to be payback. So he tried to lay low. He tried to work. He tried to keep his head down, stay low, don't go to any clubs like that. But in the back of his mind, I'm pretty sure he knew it was always somebody looking for him, always somebody that was still angry that he made it out.
My best hope for him when he got out was him and my mom just moved. I know Cardarius was living in Minnesota at the time, and then a lot of our families in Mississippi. I was praying that they just moved away. You had to, like, God gave you a second chance. Like, a lot of people, especially young black men, don't get acquitted of murder, so I was like, y'all, you two should just move, but neither one of them wanted to move.
When that's all you know and that's all you ever been around, you haven't traveled much, you don't know what else to do, all your family is there, a lot of times people just feel like they'll just stick around and they'll be okay. They just hope for the best, even though they know they have to look over their shoulders. They just feel more comfortable being in a place that they've always known.
After months of trying to walk the straight and narrow, Shavondes seems to lose himself once again to the streets.
Once he got back around or back in his comfortable environment, he went back to his old ways.
He had gotten out of prison and we were hanging out, and I was just asking him what he wanted for his life. It was the last time we hung out, actually. And I just remember him looking at me and he didn't know. And it was silence. And I'll never forget that silence. And I just said, "Aren't you scared?" And he just said, "I'm not scared of nothing."
I hate that mentality. I hate I'm not scared of nothing. In all reality, you don't have to be afraid for something bad to happen to you. So you being tough sometimes is just escalating a situation for something bad to happen to you.
One day after Shavondes Martin was murdered, investigators are still trying to identify individuals with the motive and the opportunity to kill him.
June 1st, we really kind of hit a brick wall. We didn't have any leads on suspects, so we were just kind of trying to figure out what to do next. It was suggested maybe go talk to Mom again, see if there had been any information she had gathered from friends or family that could help us. It happened to be probably the biggest break that we got in the case.
On June 1st, 2018, detectives in Waterloo, Iowa, pay another visit to the mother of murder victim Shavondes Martin.
Diane wasn't home, but her son Cardarius was. While we were speaking to him, a car with 4 females pulled up, and the driver, later identified as Shavondes' cousin, Tatanisha Hunt, got out of the seat and claimed that she had just been at the bus station and Denasia Martin was trying to leave town.
Denasia is like a third, second cousin to me. She was not my cup of tea at all. She was more so into the streets a lot.
Waterloo being a very tight-knit town, I'm very aware of who Denasia was. So I knew who they were talking about, but I didn't know where she fit into this case.
According to Tatanisha, friends saw Denasia sitting at the bus stop with a man they believed was Raymond Burden Jr. They know Burden as the stepbrother of Octavius Brown, the man Shavondes was accused of murdering.
There had been a lot of hate between Raymond and Shavondes. Shavondes had gotten off of murdering Raymond's brother, Octavius. There was always that hostility towards them. So when we get that name, the timeline starts to make sense.
Tatanisha is suspicious of Denasia and Raymond being together and at the bus stop so soon after the murder. So she goes to confront them.
I speed down there. Me and all my friends, we all speed down there. We like 2 cars deep. They see me pulled up and they hurry up and drove off. I chased them down. I was like following them. Like they was speeding, I was speeding. I chased them all the way out to like Cedar Falls.
However, at a certain point, she saw a police cruiser and slowed down. After that, she lost sight of the vehicle.
I went back to my auntie house. We was out there, the detective come, and I tell them, you know, I'm angry, like, you know, they was just trying to get to the bus station, get away on the bus.
At that point, we had no idea what part Denasia played in this, or why she was fleeing town, or why Tatanisha was even looking for her.
According to Tatanisha, a family friend named Muff says he saw Denasia and Shavondes together on the day of the murder.
We learned that Denasia had picked up Shavondes that morning of May 31st and was likely the last person now to see him alive.
Muff was in the car with Denasia when she picked up Shavondes, just hours before he was found dead.
Muff, I actually knew who that was just from previous interactions. I knew where he lived. He was willing to let us in and talk. We learned that, in fact, he was in the car with Denasia when they picked Shavondes up that morning. He put it roughly around 2 o'clock. We asked what happened after they picked Shavondes up. So he said that at the time, he asked Denasia to drop him off at a friend's house near a Walgreens just up the road from where they had picked him up. So then Denasia's alone with Shavondes in her car, being the last person with him. We need to find Denasia.
Detectives go to the Waterloo bus station and request surveillance footage from earlier that day.
Denasia Martin was clearly in a disguise of some sort. Her hair was different. I believe she had sunglasses on. She was attempting to get a bus ticket, I believe to Chicago, but her bag was too big.
Through the investigation, we also learned that Denasia had an apartment in the alley right next to where Shavondes was found. We started doing backgrounds on her, figuring out who she hung out with.
Police records prove that Denasia has a long history with Raymond Burden Jr. the stepbrother of Octavius Brown, who Chavandez was acquitted of murdering.
Raymond and Denasia had an on-again, off-again relationship. It was kind of well known through the police department. They had been arrested several times together. They had caused quite the havoc at juvenile detention facilities.
Now, investigators have two prime suspects. And they're not the only ones looking for Raymond and Denasia.
They never went back to the bus station because I was watching. I figured they probably drove out of town because what somebody had told me, they said she was going to Mississippi.
While trying to track down Denasia and Raymond, detectives receive a surprising call.
It did hit kind of stale for about a day, and then we received a phone call from Denasia. She said she was on a bus in, I think, Michigan at the time, but she was on her way to see her dad in Norfolk. At that time, Denasia denied being involved in Chavandez's death, but admitted that she had picked up Chavandez from the apartment complex and was the last person to see him alive. She said she dropped him off in a neighborhood and then went to her boyfriend's house. At the time, I wasn't going to be able to find her boyfriend because he had multiple warrants and didn't want to be found by us. So it left an open alibi there as far as we couldn't prove that, we couldn't disprove it. But the story just didn't seem right to me.
Investigators urge Denasia to come to the police station and tell them everything she knows. But Denasia says she's afraid.
She knew her cousin had died. She also had been receiving some threats as far as being the last person to see her cousin alive. She knew people were looking for her. She was adamant that there was no way she was coming back to Waterloo.
Just days after the murder of Chavandez Martin, police in Waterloo, Iowa have received a call from the victim's cousin, Denasia Martin, that she is willing to cooperate with the investigation, but only from a safe distance.
She was in fear. Everyone was accusing her of killing her cousin, and she just did not feel safe. So it was decided that me and another detective were going to go to Virginia and talk to her in person. When we met at her aunt's house, she gave a better detailed statement about what had happened.
There wasn't a great deal of consistency initially with Miss Martin, but we were able to piece together that she had been with a group of individuals on the 30th, including Raymond Burden. They had been driving around.
She talked about their timeline, gave us places that they stopped. All these things that she was telling us was just information that we needed to follow up on. It was potential video, it was potential records, purchases at gas stations.
Law enforcement was able to go back, track that story, and confirm much of what she had told law enforcement. We obtained video footage from a number of locations in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Denasia tells police that toward the end of the night, she and her friend Muff went to pick up Chavandez from his girlfriend's house. Later, she says, they were attacked.
They pulled up to an intersection. Multiple people got out of a car in front of them and pulled Chavandez out of the car at gunpoint. She was able to identify two of the people that were in that car, Raymond Burden and another male. She stated that they ultimately pulled him into a car, drove off, and that was the last time she ever saw her cousin.
After Denasia finishes telling her side of the story, police notice one contradiction. She said Muff was in the car with her when Chavandez was abducted. But that's not the story Muff told police. Investigators decide to re-interview him.
He stated that he was afraid of the people that did this, and that's why he never wanted to tell us what happened. But he finally broke down and agreed to tell us what happened.
It was just her and him in a car. They went and picked up Shavonda. We learned from him that Denasia starts acting very bizarre at that point. She's driving all over the place, slamming on the brakes, says she has to use the restroom, which was odd to him because there had been a gas station nearby. They then go up to Denasia's residence on the same alley where Mr. Martin was found.
She left the two of them in her car. During the statement, Muff says Shavonda is very paranoid, doesn't like it. Even makes the comment that, I don't like being out here, I don't have a gun, I have no protection.
Eventually, Muff says he saw a gun come through the window next to Shavondez's head.
He stated that a male with a gun told Shavondez, I got you. At that point, when the gunman started talking, Muff said he knew who it was. He knew it was Raymond Burton.
Raymond Burton ordered Shavondez to get out of the car and walk into the alley behind Denasia's apartment building.
Muff stated that as they're walking back to the alley, another person came from behind the apartment building, joined them, and that's the last time he saw Shavondez.
One of the things that sticks out to me, Mr. Martin knew he was going to be murdered. I don't care who you are, I don't care what you're accused of been doing. Nobody should have to be put in a position where they are walking to their execution.
Muff tells police he fled the scene before the shooting began.
He was afraid, so he pulled away in the vehicle, but as he was pulling away, he did hear the gunshots.
To build a solid murder case against Raymond Burton Jr., authorities know they'll need more than Muff's testimony. They keep searching for evidence that connects the alleged shooter to the victim.
At the time, I knew what Raymond's Facebook profile was. My first thing was see if there was any communication between them. So on Shavondez's Facebook results, we ended up finding a pretty significant conversation.
Shavondez has social media, so people can still contact you. They can still say things that's gonna rile you up and make you feel away. So when he started getting contacted from Raymond, his first instinct was to lash back out, to say whatever you gotta say, because he's not gonna let anybody chump him off or punk him out. And that's where the problem pretty much started to escalate from there.
In that conversation, there is some back and forth between Raymond and Shavondez. At one point, Shavondez insults Octavius Brown, and Raymond takes offense to that and escalates the conversation, threatening Shavondez. Shavondez tells him that if he doesn't be careful, he's going to end up in a grave next to his brother, to which Raymond responds, I bet you see him before I do.
Without a doubt, a threat that was made. And this is just in the hours just prior to the shooting death of Shavondez Martin.
At that point, Raymond was actually wanted on a separate crime. We felt confident if we can try to get him in jail, maybe we can build a case and ultimately charge him with murder.
In the fall of 2018, authorities are searching for Raymond Burton Jr., the main suspect in the shooting death of Shavondez Martin.
Our detectives were able to actually locate him in Texas, get him arrested, and brought back to Waterloo.
Raymond Burton was placed under arrest for an unrelated intimidation with a dangerous weapon prior to his arrest for the murder of Shavonda Martin.
Soon after, authorities also arrest his accomplice, Denasia Martin, who authorities believe lured her own cousin to his death.
There was no denying that she knew that this was payback. This was a setup.
We sent the U.S. Marshals after her in Norfolk, Virginia, where she was ultimately arrested. We had her transported back to Black Hawk eventually, where she agreed to cooperate with the case.
Denasia Martin pled to conspiracy to commit a forcible felony and was sentenced to prison for an indeterminate sentence not to exceed 10 years.
In April 2021, Raymond Burton Jr. went on trial for murder.
We were sitting in the same room as his family, so emotions is flaring. Both families in the same room, so a lot of tension.
I was real angry. I kept walking out the room. Like, I couldn't hear it all. It was just making me so mad.
Raymond ultimately didn't take the stand. He refused to talk to us.
Raymond was very cool and calm throughout the trial, up until the time of the verdict.
On May 4th, a jury decides his fate.
Ultimately, they found Raymond Burton guilty of murder in the first degree. And in Iowa, any murder in the first verdict is a mandatory life in prison without the chance of parole.
It was a relief, but after they said guilty, I told my family we all got up and hurried up and left, because let's not give this chance to boil.
Remind you, this is a small city, small neighborhood where nobody really gets out of it anyway. So after the verdict, after all of this, they're still going to see each other. And they're going to see each other every day at grocery stores, picking up their kids from school, just anywhere. And this is something they're going to have to live with.
The mysterious second shooter has never been identified or brought to justice. And tragically, Shavonda's mother did not live to see Raymond Burton Jr. convicted.
It's months apart, still grieving from our brother. We had to grieve again from our mother.
In September 2018, Diane Martin died in her own home, the apparent victim of a stray bullet in a drive-by shooting.
I seen my mom laying on the floor right there in the kitchen with blood everywhere. So I looked to see if she was okay. I seen her eyes red. And I seen blood like on the stove everywhere from her back of her head. And I seen it and I ran out the house, always to the end of the church by my house. I sat there in front of the door and cried, and then go back to the house ever since.
Her murder is still under investigation. We have not made an arrest in it. We don't believe at this time she was the intended target. We believe she was an innocent victim in gunplay.
My auntie was an innocent lady, and she didn't deserve to die at all with no bullet. But, you know, if justice don't come, God got him at the end. Your karma gonna come around.
In cases like this, even though it's been years and years already passed down, there's also beefs that get passed down as well. So it's probably still gunplay and other beefs that stem from that's still going on to this day. And there's probably some people that's involved in this beef that doesn't even realize where it really stemmed from. My message to all aunts, all big homies, all fathers, just try to lead by example.
If you care about yourself enough, you'll know how valuable you is. See, me being spiritual and learning how valuable I am, I knew that with me being gone, that my family, my kids and wife, fiance would fall apart and they wouldn't be safe. So I knew how valuable.
Floyd and Katoya, they was insufferable. You see her, you see him. You see him, you see her. I got there, they had it taped off. And then I heard this girl say, well, they say it's 2 people in there. I just got numb. I just couldn't believe that this happened. And I still don't.
The maintenance worker noticed that the back sliding glass was completely shattered. They did not respond to him. Both were cold to the touch.
The issue came up of who was actually the owner of the car.
He thought they were doing him wrong, so he wanted to do them wrong.
There was a very strong sense of family. When one called for help, the others came.
He wanted revenge. He wanted payback.
I can't believe this just happened right in front of my eyes.
It's just after 11 a.m. on December 29th, 2020 in Kalamazoo, Michigan. A maintenance worker at the Oak Tree apartment complex makes his rounds for the day.
The maintenance worker was just kind of driving around, seeing if, it's just kind of just a once through the apartment, see if there's anything. And he noticed that the back sliding glass door of the apartment number 1 there was completely shattered out. Obviously, that concerned him very much because this was an occupied apartment. It was a very cold time of year. This was in December.
He contacted his supervisor, who authorized him to go in and make sure everything was okay.
So he went up to the apartment and kind of, as maintenance does, he calls out multiple times just to see, hey, is there anybody home? As he's walking into the apartment, he's just, still being very cautious, just calling out because he doesn't want to, surprise anybody. Just as soon as you're in that hallway, you can see that bedroom, and you could see legs. He was on the bed, and he was clearly unresponsive. He kind of backed out right away. He obviously had a feeling that something was very, very wrong. So that maintenance worker contacted the manager, said, hey, something's going on. Can you please call the police? So that the actual manager of the complex contacted the police department.
A patrol officer with the Kalamazoo Police Department responds. He enters the apartment and heads toward the bedroom.
As he got into the bedroom, he observed a man on the bed and a woman up against the wall.
He discovered that there were 2 deceased individuals inside.
They're cold to the touch. A male victim and a female victim.
There was blood and injuries to the subjects. I mean, it was apparent that the subjects had gunshot wounds.
They located the identifications of driver's licenses of the 2 decedents and were able to identify them as Katoya McPherson and Floyd Brasher Jr.
"36-year-old Floyd Brashers Jr. was a Kalamazoo native.
Floyd was a happy baby. He didn't cry much. He walked at age 9 months. Floyd was an A student. He was on the honor roll. He was in the gifted class. He was real smart. Floyd, he loved sports. He was on a basketball team, he was on the football team, and he was on the volleyball team. He played exceptional basketball, and they just knew, he was real good.
In his teens, Floyd had a brief romance with Katoya McPherson.
They've been knowing each other for quite some time. We was close. She used to call me Mom.
The youthful romance ended when Floyd moved to Georgia with his mother.
He met another young lady that he had a relationship with, and he married her. She was a sweetheart. She was really a sweet girl. I liked her a lot.
Floyd had to be at least about 18 when he had his first child. He was just ecstatic. He was very proud to be a father. Like I say, he was very excited when he had his little girl. And then his son, I guess that just was the highlight of his life.
But the youthful marriage ended.
For some reason, unknown to me, they decided to go their separate ways. However, Floyd continued to stay active in his daughter's life and his son's life. He came back to Kalamazoo somewhere between 2009 and 10. Him and Katoya got back together. He still had feelings for her. Perhaps she still had feelings for him as well.
They met up again, and he moved in with her, and he had told me, he said, she has a little girl now. And he was thrilled about that. She would call my son Dad. And so they were a happy little couple. I was happy for him.
They were like two peas in a pod. They loved each other.
The couple struggled financially, but Floyd always opened his home and sometimes his wallet to those in need.
Floyd was too trusting. When it came to loaning people money, helping people, just certain people just took advantage of his kindness.
But keeping Katoya happy was always his first priority.
He couldn't go nowhere without Katoya. When he was with her, she had to go everywhere he went.
In December 2020, the couple took a trip north to visit Floyd's father just after Christmas.
I went to pick up my son and Katoya, both from the bus station here in Kalamazoo. They had went up for the holiday to visit his dad. And when they got back here, I picked them up from the bus station and took them home.
But the day after they returned, responding officers with the Kalamazoo Police Department find the couple dead inside their apartment.
They tape off the area. They want to make sure they get the perimeter secured, and they call the other investigators to check out the scene.
Homicide detectives arrive.
When detectives first checked the bedroom in which the victims were located, it appeared to be the main bedroom. Had the full-size bed and a TV in it. Laying face down on the bed was Mr. Brashers, and Miss McPherson was located, slept up against the wall, just below the window. When looking at them, they were wearing what I would describe as clothes to sleep in. The fact that they were both in the bedroom, to me, seems like they were in the bedroom when whoever entered into the apartment.
They see that there's 7 shell casings around from a .32 caliber gun.
It appeared that once the victims were shot, where they fell is where they stayed.
Floyd Brasher was shot 5 times, and Katoya McPherson was shot twice.
When you go into an apartment and the residents are deceased, it can be very difficult to ascertain if there's anything missing. Because, we as investigators don't know necessarily what was there and what may be missing. So initially, I wouldn't say there was any sign of robbery.
It appears the only thing the intruder was after was Floyd and Katoya.
The sliding glass door was shattered, but that was just how the suspects entered the apartment. I did not see things overturned. Someone broke into the house, ran into the house, shot them in their bedroom, and fled. Just from that very basic description, it seems like this was very targeted. They shot and killed both subjects. It wasn't one of them, it was both of them.
Investigators in Kalamazoo, Michigan are at an apartment where 36-year-old Floyd Brashers Jr. and 33-year-old Katoya McPherson were shot to death in their bedroom. With few clues to be found inside the apartment, detectives look for witnesses.
We eventually spoke with the neighbor who lived in the apartment next to the victims. That neighbor indicated that in the previous evening, they had heard 6 or 7 gunshots.
Another neighbor was talked to, and they said they heard shots as well. about 6 to 7.
Both neighbors say the gunshots rang out shortly after 7 p.m.
Several officers observed houses that had exterior cameras. One of those houses was to the east of the location, and the camera pointed directly at the back of the apartment. So officers made contact with the homeowner to see if they could obtain video surveillance from that particular camera.
As detectives continue to work the scene, Floyd's family gets word of police activity at his apartment.
I received a phone call from my nephew, and he was crying and upset. He was saying, "You need to go see what's going on over there at Floyd and Katoya's." I got there. I'm looking at the crime scene. They had it taped off. And then I heard this girl say, "Well, they say it's 2 people in there." And I'm like, oh no. You know, I'm thinking, well, Floyd and Katoya, they, like I say, they was inseparable. You see her, you see him. You see him, you see her. So now I'm in tears. And sure enough, one of the officers, he come back and he said to me, he said, "We identify the body. Yes, it is. It's your son."
Meanwhile, detectives get word on the security cameras.
The system was a little older, and the camera footage, especially at night, was not clear, but we were able to obtain the video footage.
They check it around the time witnesses reported hearing the gunshots.
At 7:13:25, the 2 subjects are shown walking towards the apartment complex.
You could clearly see 2 silhouettes that ran up to the apartment.
One was taller, one was shorter. You see those 2 individuals go to the slider back door. They do something to the back door. You can't tell what it is.
At 7:13:47, the same 2 subjects are shown going inside.
About 9 seconds later, you see them both come out, and this time they're running across that area between the slider back door, and they disappear into those woods.
Then, an officer on the scene approaches detectives.
Sergeant White was quite adamant in letting us know that, hey, I had responded here multiple times yesterday.
Katoya McPherson and Floyd Brashers called the police the day before at 8:45.
Mr. Brashers had indicated that there were 2 individuals that had staying with them, that they wanted them out.
They called to get 2 people removed, D'Angelo Davis and Marcus Nichols. Marcus and D'Angelo were homeless, so Katoya and Floyd agreed to let them stay over the weekend. But the victim stated that the 2 gentlemen had overstayed their welcome, and they refused to leave.
When patrol officers arrived, they found D'Angelo furious, but not over being asked to leave.
There was a disagreement between Floyd Brashers and D'Angelo Davis, specifically about a missing vehicle.
D'Angelo was upset because he said they were lying about where his car was. They said it had gotten towed.
D'Angelo didn't believe the car was towed. Floyd told the officer it didn't matter. He explained that Katoya's stepsister bought the car from Floyd, promising to make payments. But before she paid it off, she sold it to D'Angelo.
She had purchased this vehicle from Floyd Brashers, and that she was in the process of selling it to D'Angelo Davis. He still owed a certain amount of money on the vehicle, and she was still owed money to Floyd Brashers.
Therefore, according to Floyd, the vehicle was legally his. At the urging of the officers, Marcus and D'Angelo left.
Now at this point, Marcus and D'Angelo are totally upset and frazzled. They grab their belongings and they leave, and they're picked up by a female.
The driver of the vehicle was D'Angelo's sister, Tanisha, and they did end up leaving the apartment complex.
But a couple of hours later, the officer says he was called back to the apartment. D'Angelo was there again, demanding that Floyd turn over the vehicle.
It was then that Mr. Brashers presented an out-of-state title and saying, it was his vehicle. He then started saying, well, I have the keys, but the vehicle is hidden. He didn't want to tell Mr. Davis where the vehicle was.
The officers tells Davis that, look, this is a civil situation. You're going to have to take this to civil court. Now Davis is getting even more upset and more infuriated. He feels like this is totally unfair because this is his vehicle and it is mine. However, still, there's nothing anyone can do.
The officer reports that the two men left. But now detectives are wondering, did they come back a third time?
I feel that it would be prudent to obviously follow up with them because of how upset he was and the fact that now they're dead, the next day.
They didn't tell me anything except that we identified him as being Floyd Brasher. That's all I got from them. And then later he came out and he said, Miss Hudson, it's going to be a while before they even take the bodies out. He said, you don't need to be here. Just go home because this is probably too much for you. And I was crying then. And so my sister and I just sat there. I got in my car and I just sat there. So now I'm thinking to myself, I gotta help my sister keep it together. Being supportive of my sister is automatic. I mean, I don't have to second guess it or think twice about that. I just was shocked. I couldn't hardly sleep. I just was lost. I didn't know. I just was out of it. I just got numb. I just couldn't believe that this happened. And I still don't.
Investigators working the homicide of Michigan couple Floyd Brashers Jr. and Katoya McPherson want to question D'Angelo Davis over a dispute he had with the couple about a car.
We did have a phone number for D'Angelo Davis, so I drafted a search warrant, which could tell us within a small geographic area where that phone was at the time. I started receiving active locations for Mr. Davis. Due to the severity of the crime that we were investigating, a double murder, and the fact that Mr. Davis had previous firearm possession cases, it indicated that a more serious response was needed. It was determined that the Kalamazoo area Metro SWAT team would assist in arresting Mr. Davis. We were able to follow him for a short period of time and ended up making a stop on him on the east side of the city.
Almost a week after the shootings, D'Angelo Davis is taken into custody without incident.
After his arrest, he was taken to the Kalamazoo Township Police Department. The detective did ask him about what happened that day, or at least his whereabouts of that day. He stated that he had spent time with his family, specifically his sister Tanisha and his relative Trevor. We could verify some of that information because we knew for a fact that his sister had picked him up on the 28th.
Along with Marcus, D'Angelo says they left the apartment complex and tried to figure out where Floyd hid the car.
He had been driving around with the people in the car. Tanisha was driving the car, it's her vehicle, and they're driving around looking for the car.
But they couldn't find it.
Marcus was dropped off at his sister's residence, and from there, he claimed he spent the rest of the evening with his sister at his aunt's house.
Detective Sergeant Hayner did tell Mr. Davis that he in fact was a suspect in this case. And once he realized that he was a suspect in the case, requested an attorney. Due to the fact that Mr. Davis requested an attorney, Detective Sergeant Hayner no longer questioned him, and then he was transferred to the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Department for his bond violation.
But DeAngelo doesn't remain in custody for long.
2 days later, DeAngelo Davis was released from jail.
With nothing else to go on, DeAngelo remains the only suspect. On January 7th, investigators reach out to Katoya's stepsister, Damania Johnson, the woman from whom DeAngelo said he bought the disputed car.
Damania told me that she had bought that car from Floyd. She had used the car and, she had sometimes driven DeAngelo Davis to work, but was in the process of selling that vehicle to DeAngelo Davis.
Their agreement was for DeAngelo to pay her $700.
When she first made the decision to sell the vehicle to DeAngelo, she said that she gave DeAngelo a ride and that his relative, Trevor, actually went with them. They went to the bank, and Trevor's the actual one who took $500 out of the bank and gave it to her as like a down payment on the car. At the time of the incident, DeAngelo was 24 years old and Trevor was 17 years old. He also seemed to have a very strong influence on Trevor. She then said that DeAngelo also gave her several $100s as an additional payment on the car, but that he had still owed her some money on the car.
When DeAngelo stopped paying her, she stopped paying Floyd, prompting him to take back possession of the car the day before the shootings. She tells police DeAngelo was livid.
On the day before this incident occurred, he had called her multiple times to verify that he owned the vehicle. At that time, she didn't want to get involved, but he was messaging her multiple times. She could clearly tell that he was upset. And a concern of hers was that he messaged her about, if they're going to put me through this, I'm going to be homeless.
He said if they don't give the car back, he would just be suffering, and he would make their life hell.
Kalamazoo detectives questioned Damania Johnson about murder suspect DeAngelo Davis. She tells investigators that he was furious over a botched car sale between himself and murder victims Floyd Brashers Jr. and Katoya McPherson.
She described him as kind of multiple terms, but a really good controlling person, manipulator, but also a mastermind. And going on with my interview with her, she said that DeAngelo and Trevor were very, very tight, and she had seen both of them with guns. We were understanding that there was possibly two suspects involved, Marcus Nichols O'Neal or DeAngelo Davis. So while they were persons of interest, this added an additional person of interest because she had brought up the fact that DeAngelo was very, very tight with his brother Trevor, and that she had seen both of them with firearms previously. We decided we'd go and find Marcus Nichols O'Neal. We had several addresses for him, and after checking several addresses, we located him and asked him to come speak with us, and he voluntarily came to the Kalamazoo Township Police Department. We started talking to him about the incidents of that day. We knew that he was with DeAngelo in the morning, so we just began talking to him about the day, what he did, where he went, things like that.
He admits that he and DeAngelo did go back to the apartment for a third time, around 7 p.m.
In fact, he specifically said Tanisha drove him and DeAngelo Davis to the apartment complex.
He says they parked in the lot of another complex connected to the one where Floyd lived by way of a wooded path.
Marcus stated that they approached the home through the woods.
Then he talks about breaking in the back window.
he admits that he was the one that broke the window in Katoya and Floyd's home, but he can't remember what weapon he used. He didn't know if it was a bat or a rock or what.
He's going back and forth, but then later says it's a bat. He then describes going into the apartment. And this is where some of the information that someone with intimate knowledge of the crime would know.
He also correctly stated what kind of caliber gun was used in the shooting.
He knows the caliber of the firearm used, which, again, you would only know that a .32 caliber firearm was used. It's not a typical caliber.
But as he goes on, detectives note that Marcus starts to get hung up on the details.
We talked to him about where the victims were, and his statement was that he thought one of the victims was in the kitchen. Now we know in the scene that nothing happened in the kitchen. And we start talking to him about how many gunshots were fired. He says 2. He sticks to that number. We know that's not accurate.
He later admitted that D'Angelo was the one that fired the gun during an argument with Katoya and Floyd.
He stated that after shooting them, they then fled the scene and were then picked up by Tanisha. He believed that D'Angelo discarded the firearm somewhere in the woods. He talks about how he's shocked and just so surprised about what happened. He said that D'Angelo told him they were going over there to just get the car or find out where the car was, so he didn't expect there to be such violence and to have, Katoya and Floyd killed.
But detectives are troubled by Marcus's confession.
We did have concerns because some of the statements did not line up with the evidence that we had and had established. But at the same time, the statements were of such detail that we couldn't just put those discrepancies aside.
There is one part of Marcus's statement that police want to look into right away.
Specifically that Tanisha had driven them to and from the scene. And we also knew Tanisha had picked D'Angelo up and returned him to the apartment when earlier on the 28th when they were still determining ownership of the vehicle. So we knew for sure that that made sense. So we went and found Tanisha at her place of employment. She said on the 28th, after picking up her brother, they had contacted multiple towing companies and couldn't find the vehicle. She said that she drove D'Angelo around town for quite some time in an attempt to find the vehicle.
But Tanisha says she never went back to the apartment with her brother that night. Detectives think she is lying.
She was reluctant to speak about the incident, obviously because she was talking about her family. We confronted her with the fact that we had information that she drove her brother to the scene. Once we confronted Tanisha about the fact we knew that she had driven D'Angelo to the scene, she started to admit to what she knew about that evening. When we talked to her about Marcus Nichols O'Neal, she said that they had dropped him off earlier in the night and that he was not involved, and that the only people in that vehicle were her, D'Angelo, and Trevor. She was very clear.
D'Angelo Davis indicated that he wanted to file charges against Floyd Brashers for stealing the car. So then the issue came up of who was actually the owner of the car. And Mr. Davis did not have any paperwork to prove he had purchased the vehicle. I mean, it had not been signed over to him. He didn't have a bill of sale or a handwritten receipt or any kind of documentation that he had purchased the car. So Sergeant White ultimately informed him that it was a civil matter and that he could not file criminal charges. Mr. Davis was very emotional and being angry to the point of actually slamming his fists on his legs as he was expressing his anger.
He did not have a lot of resources at that time, and a loss of like this would have been pretty significant to him. He was very upset about the whole situation. Felt that he was just being completely abused and used.
Homicide detectives in Kalamazoo, Michigan, are questioning Tanisha Taylor McMillan about the shooting deaths of Floyd Brashers Jr. and Katoya McPherson. Tanisha tells them that confessed accomplice Marcus Nichols O'Neal wasn't even there. Instead, it was her, D'Angelo, and their younger relative, Trevor.
She and Mr. driving D'Angelo Davis and Trevor Moore to an apartment complex near the victim's home.
Now, she was saying that she did not know at this point what they were planning on doing other than going over there. She did not say she saw a weapon or a firearm. She said that they took a bat that she keeps in her vehicle for personal protection.
According to Tanisha, Trevor and D'Angelo got out of the car and headed down the path toward Floyd's apartment.
It wasn't very long from how long it took from when they left the vehicle to when they came back. I think it was just a matter of minutes. And she says when they got back that Mr. Davis made statements about emptying a clip. Davis immediately told her to get out of there. She believed that they were going there to get the car back and only found out that the two had been killed after the fact.
So when they asked Tanisha who does she think pulled the trigger, she stated D'Angelo because he had the temperament, the energy, and the excitement, and he had a motive to do it. According to Tanisha, the real motive for the killing was D'Angelo was upset and wanted payback.
Tanisha is arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Meanwhile, Marcus is released.
Marcus had a brief conversation with the officers, and they asked about his false claim of being there. And he said, you know what? I have no idea why. Sometimes my brain gives me false conclusions.
Through statements given to him by Trevor and D'Angelo, for some reason, put himself at the scene in Trevor's shoes. And that is why he had so many incorrect statements about the facts in the case.
But D'Angelo remains free.
Subsequent contacts with D'Angelo Davis occurred following the arrest of Tanisha, his sister. During these contacts, D'Angelo didn't openly admit to his involvement in the crime. However, he showed a great deal of concern and remorse that his sister had been caught up in the investigation. That seemed to be his singular focus.
On March 29, 2021, D'Angelo reaches out, wanting to take some of the heat off his sister, Tanisha.
D'Angelo stated that he came forward because his sister thought he abandoned her, and he wanted to show her that he would never do that. He told the detectives that he did it all. He had the bat, he broke into the window, he was the shooter. He did the entire thing himself.
He then changed that statement, and he told him next that Trevor had the baseball bat, but that he was the person who shot Floyd Brashers Jr. and Katoya McPherson.
Detectives were able to tell D'Angelo was lying. On the surveillance footage, it was shown that the taller of the two men were the one that actually broke the window and went in first. And as they compare the heights of the two individuals, D'Angelo was taller, so obviously he is the one that went in first.
So when confronted, D'Angelo Davis then changes his story, and he indicates that he had the baseball bat and that he's the one who broke out the slider. That when they entered, Trevor had the gun, and Trevor was the one who shot and killed both Katoya McPherson and Floyd Brashers.
D'Angelo hit Floyd in the legs so he could not get up. D'Angelo said Trevor shot Katoya first, then Floyd. He brought the bat back to his aunt's house and discarded it near a basketball court. Trevor sold the gun a few days later after the murders.
According to D'Angelo, the murders were about respect.
D'Angelo felt very disrespected by what happened to the vehicle. He thought they were doing him wrong, so he wanted to do them wrong.
D'Angelo Davis is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. 2 weeks later, Trevor Moore is found.
On April 19, 2021, I was notified that Trevor had been located in a nearby county and had been taken into custody on an unrelated incident.
When Trevor was asked, did he do the murder for the family ties, he said, the family ties ain't that strong. And he concluded the interview.
He is charged with 2 counts of felony murder. One is for Katoya McPherson, and the other is for Floyd Brashers.
As the trials near, prosecutors approach Tanisha.
Ultimately, we made an offer to her that if she pled guilty to being an accessory after the fact to murder, that the other charges would be dismissed. The other part of the plea agreement is that she agreed as part of the agreement to testify truthfully in cases involving the death of the 2 decedents and D'Angelo Davis and Trevor.
But then D'Angelo's attorney reaches out. He also wants a deal.
D'Angelo was offered a plea deal of second-degree murder if he would have testified against Trevor Moore.
D'Angelo took the deal. However, that deal was dependent on him testifying during the trial.
But at the start of the trial, D'Angelo has a change of heart.
I show up to trial the second day of trial, and that's when I'm informed by his attorney that he's going to assert his right to remain silent.
And that kind of disrupted the prosecutor's flow and theory of the trial, because they had talked a lot about what D'Angelo Davis was going to say during the trial.
D'Angelo's refusal to testify caused a mistrial in Trevor's case in March of 2022.
Having refused to testify against Trevor, in June of 2022, D'Angelo Davis must now go on trial himself.
When we went into that trial, his confession to the police was the cornerstone of the case.
Even though D'Angelo said Trevor was the triggerman, the prosecution paints him as the mastermind and the man with the motive.
Part of the argument that I made to the jury is, under Michigan law, there is aiding and abetting in a case. So I believe the evidence showed that D'Angelo Davis aided and abetted in the homicide.
The police officers testifying about the incident that happened the day before, D'Angelo being very upset, being forced off the property by the police. This was his deal. This was his problem he had with these people. This is something that started because of him.
He's the one that directed where the trio went that day. So he was, I believe, the driving force behind each of the 2 murders. There was a very strong sense of family between the 3 of them. So when one called for help, the others came. And I think that that was a dynamic at play on the 28th of December 2020, that D'Angelo called first Tanisha for help and then Trevor for help, and that no small part based on that family dynamic, they came to assist him.
D'Angelo got found guilty of first-degree murder, got sentenced to life in prison.
That September, Trevor goes on trial again. The defense has the advantage.
Tanisha did testify about the murders, and she did implicate both D'Angelo and Trevor.
But it isn't enough.
The jury found the defense's argument to be compelling and found Trevor not guilty. Trevor Moore was fully acquitted of killing Katoya and Floyd.
Tanisha was charged and pled to an accessory charge and spent 1 year in jail. She has since been released.
My reaction was, you gotta be me. I can't believe this just happened right in front of my eyes.
I want people to remember that Floyd was a happy person. He was a good-hearted person. He was, he believed in God. He wasn't perfect, because none of us are. But he was a good person. He really was. And he didn't deserve that